Hello everybody, it's Sephiroth1204 for more top 13 Pokemon lists for Collab Camerupt. Today we'll be continuing our top 13 favorite Pokemon list. Last time we counted down 13 to 7, so today we'll be continuing with number 6. Number 6 on the list is number 701 in the Pokedex, the wrestling Pokemon Hawlucha. Now, I can hear some people in the comments screaming, "Oh God, Hawlucha!" Yeah, Hawlucha I think is one of my favorite Pokemon. He's number 6, but he has a fantastic design. He's obviously modeled after being like a luchador, Lucha Libre, which is always just a very colorful thing. Its shiny is also fantastic looking. But Hawlucha is fun for a few things. One, it's the only flying fighting type, which is actually a very fun combination. It has great speed and attack, and it has a move. Flying Press, the bane of so many Pokemon players. Flying Press, which is the only dual type move in the game, part flying, part fighting type, which gives it a whole bunch of stab damage. Imagine you have a Pokemon that is, let's say a Scraggy, dark fighting type, and you use Flying Press on it. Scraggy will explode. It will not die, it will explode. If you get a critical hit, it will just evaporate into a poof of smoke. It does a lot of damage. It's just, I love the concept of Flying Press, aside from the fact that it looks cool in the game. I love the concept of Flying Press being a dual type, and it adds an extra layer to the strategy of the game, because like some Pokemon it's actually not as good on, some Pokemon it's better on. I mean, you use Flying Press on a Skarmory, it's actually not gonna be super effective because the flying is not gonna go well with the steel and things like that. But it's just a fun Pokemon to use all around. It was a big part of my Pokemon Y playthrough. And it was just different, and I love it, and I hope that in the future they bring more dual type moves in, because that just adds a fun layer to the strategy, as I said, which is why Hawlucha is my number 6. Number 5. Number 5 is number 213 in the Pokedex, the mold Pokemon, Shuckle. You guys are probably saying, what? Shuckle is a personal favorite of mine. It's not a Pokemon it's the only Pokemon on this list, I should say, that I really haven't used as much as any of the others. It's not something that I often use. In fact, I've never had it on any of my main teams in any Pokemon games. I would say it's more of a novelty Pokemon, but I love it for several reasons. Shuckle is some sort of turtle, worm, endolith thing. I'm not really sure. But there's a few things that I love about it. First of all, the shiny is adorable. The blue shell, it's fantastic. It is the most tankiest tank of tankitude of any tanky Pokemon that ever tanked. Why? Because it has the highest base defense and special defense of any Pokemon. It's tied with a few megas and things like that, but I'm saying just in general, it has max defense and special defense. And that's saying something. It has terrible stats otherwise, but let's say, I don't know, you have Contrary Shuckle with Shell Smash. Contrary is an ability that reverses stat gains. So if you have something that raises stats, it lowers them. If you have something that lowers stats, it raises them. Shell Smash would normally lower your stats, and instead it just turns Shuckle into a giant monster, which is quite amazing. Normally it would lower defense, but nope. Nope. It's beautiful. Shuckle is the only Pokemon on this list that I would say I really love because of its competitive use. It has a fun moveset. You can give it Toxic and pretty much anything else, and it will just destroy all opponents that aren't Steel types. But it can use other things for Steel types, maybe Infestation or something. But it's just fun all around. Also, Shuckle in the original, Pokemon Gold and Silver game, it is the only Pokemon that you can get Berry Juice from. Essentially, you make it hold a berry, use it for a while, and voila, Berry Juice. It's just its ability. Before abilities existed, which is kind of cool. Also, Shuckle is used to demonstrate the new Friendship stat that was introduced in the second-gen Pokemon games. Essentially, a guy in Cianwood City says, I need you to hold on to Shuckle for me. Just hold on to him. Be nice to him. And if you come back to the guy later with Shuckle having a sufficiently increased friendship stat, the guy will let you keep him. Otherwise, he gives him back. Or you could just ignore the guy completely and never talk to him again and keep Shuckle forever. But that's mean! But yes, it demonstrates how to use friendship in order to, make Pokemon like you, and obviously Shuckle doesn't evolve through friendship like some of the other Pokemon in the gen, but it's just, it's a nice tutorial, I guess. Also, Shuckle is known for, at level 100, having the potential for having the highest damage in a single attack of any Pokemon, and if you want to look that up online, I'm not going to go through it here, but it's in the millions or something. It's kind of creepy. But you could switch Shuckle's attack and defense with its special attack and special defense and give it all sorts of things and roll out and all whatever against specific Pokemon. But yes, Shuckle also is, there's just so many memes. There's so many memes. I mean, I named my Shuckles Shuck Norris because that's just a perfect name, but I mean, you just look up Shuckle memes online and it's just, they're endless. I mean, Shuckle is a god. There's Shuck God, Shuck Norris. You don't, if I cursed, it's you don't bleeple with Shuckle. Just try to find something that rhymes with Shuckle. You can figure it out if you're enterprising young man, but it's just a fun Pokemon, which is why it makes my number 5. Number 4. Number 4 is number 389 in the Pokedex, the continent Pokemon Torterra. The only other starter type Pokemon on this list. This one is actually fully evolved, unlike Totodile. Torterra, 7 foot 3 inches in height, or length, or something. I'm not really sure. The Pokedex really isn't ever specific if it's height or length. But there's just a few reasons why I love Torterra. One is because it's Pokedex entries. Essentially, it says that there are some Pokemon that grow up, live, and die, all in the little forest on its back. It's just like, it has a friggin' tree on its back. How many Pokemon have that? I mean, Grotle has bushes, but it has an ecosystem living on its back, and even though it's not so big, and I have no idea, maybe it just has little colonies of Joltics, I don't know, but it has an ecosystem, and the only other continent Pokemon is Groudon, so that gives you, I guess, just an idea of the magnitude of what Torterra is meant to be. It's meant to be its own ecosystem, and that's really cool. It's also fun as the only grass ground type. That doesn't really make it too strong, but it gives it some fun type combinations and things. It's also the only starter from any gen that I like more than the water. Piplup, Empoleon. But Torterra is my water starter. I usually name it either Earth Demon or Forest Dino, depending on the situation. I honestly think that it should have been a fossil Pokemon, giving its dinosaur type status. It's like a combination of a turtle or tortoise and a Ankylosaurus. So I really think it would have done well as a fossil type, but being a starter, I'm also happy. It's kind of slow, but again, it's a tankish Pokemon. Has nice defense, nice attack. It could withstand damage. And it's just something that I've really enjoyed using in my Diamond playthrough. One of the reasons why Sinnoh was my second favorite, the Diamond was my second favorite Pokemon game after Silver. One of the reasons was because of Torterra. It was just fun to use. It was one of the Pokemon that could use the new HM Rock Climb, and it was just great. It was a tank, and it did not stand up for nobody could push it around, which is why it's my number 4. Number 3. Number 3 is number 681 in the Pokedex, the Royal Sword Pokemon Aegislash. Aegislash is just fantastic. Once again, aside from its previous evolutions, the only the only Steel Ghost type Pokemon, which again gives it some really nice combinations. I mean, It's has amazing resistance and immunity. I think personally Aegislash and the Honedge family in general is the reason why Steel type was nerfed in 6th gen. Because if Dark and Ghost weren't allowed to be neutral to Steel, Aegislash would have had almost no weakness. Pretty much just fire. Ground, maybe. Otherwise, yeah, that would have been it. It would have been too powerful. And as it is, it's already too powerful. Once again, Aegislash is similar to Shuckle in that it has terrific defense and special defense in its shield form. But unlike Shuckle, it can turn into an attack form, its sword form, and that defense and special defense gets turned into attack and special attack, and that just it turns into a monster once again. It has some terrific moves, and it was one of my favorite Pokemon when I played through Y for the first time. It's one of the only Pokemon I really like from Gen 6. Gen 6 is just not a favorite, especially the fairy types, but that's a talk for another time. But yeah, Aegislash's description talks about detects qualities of kingship, and it can manipulate people and Pokemon. Essentially, Aegislash is Excalibur. It's the Masamune. It's the sword to end all swords, and it is the sword of kings. So I guess if you want to put an Earthbound reference in there. It's essentially the human's advisor, the king's advisor, the one that controls the masses. It's just fun. Its shiny form is terrific. I mean, the shiny Honedge and shiny Doublade with its blood red sword. Aegislash just has like a little blood red trim, but it's still there, and it's scary, and it's so good looking. So its name, Aegis and Slash put together. Aegis is like Zeus's shield in Greek mythology. I mean, if you look at like Final Fantasy games, you always find an Aegis shield somewhere that has lots of resistances and things to status. And that's essentially what Aegislash is. Aegislash is resistance incarnate. Or, he is the god of war. So that is why he is my number 3 favorite Pokemon. Number 2. Number 2 is number 398 in the Pokedex, the Predator Pokemon Staraptor. Oh, Staraptor, how I love thee. Let me count the ways. Staraptor has very high attack and speed. It has the ability Intimidate, and it learns one of the best moves, personally, one of my favorite moves, Close Combat, which essentially Staraptor is a fighting type. I think it would have been cool if Staraptor was flying fighting type. I think it would have been, a good alternate to Hawlucha. But it's essentially, it always takes the place of my fighting types because it uses Close Combat perfectly, and that's always good when you're against a rock Pokemon, trying to beat up or steal Pokemon, and they comes out of left field and beats them up. It's wonderful. It's my favorite looking bird Pokemon, like especially of the normal flying types. Sorry, Mega Pidgeot. I always name mine Lieutenant Hawkeye after the character from Fullmetal Alchemist, just because that just seems to be the best. Lieutenant Hawkeye was also just someone who goes in vicious attacks and things. I mean, she was a sniper, more of a gun person, but you know what I mean if you watch the show. She was always just gung-ho, and that's really what Staraptor is. Staraptor's comb is also just great. It's like, it always fusses about its comb. It's just a blood red at the end of it also. Again with the blood red, it's just doused in the blood of my enemies. And its name is probably a combination of Starling and Raptor. Starling is like an Asian bird it's based on, like Starly also. So yeah, it's a fantastic Pokemon. It was when I first played the Sinnoh games, and I got Starly. I was like, okay, this is going to be another, Pidgey thing, I guess. Nope. It turned out to be horribly strong and really overpowered, in my opinion, and it was fantastic. I enjoyed it, and I was really disappointed in 5th gen when we got Unpheasant. I was just like, this Pokemon stinks. But Staraptor was just one of my favorites, and I guess really my favorite Sinnoh Pokemon, which is why it's number 2 on my slot. Number 1. Okay, if you know me, you know exactly where this is going. Just to recap, I guess, we've had Castform, Zapdos, Jirachi, Totodile, Snorlax, Victini, Skarmory, Hawlucha, Shuckle, Torterra, Aegislash, and Staraptor. So who could possibly be my #1 favorite Pokemon of all time? Well, it's number 248 in the Pokedex, the Armor Pokemon, Tyranitar. Now, this is the first Pokemon on the list that actually has a Mega, or the first Pokemon that made the list anyway, that has a Mega. I'm including Mega Tyranitar here, but that's not why I like him. I've liked Tyranitar since the very first game, and the very first game it appeared in anyway. And it's just, it has a lot of good things going for it. One was its description. When it goes on rampages, it forces cartographers to draw new maps. It has the force to topple mountains and just make new landscapes. This Pokemon is, he's not too much taller than I am actually, but this thing is a force of nature. One of its signature moves, I would say, is Thrash, and that's really defines it. It is a tank. It is one of my favorite tanks in the whole game. Its type combination of Dark and Rock is really, really bad. I will be the first to admit it is one of the worst type combinations. It is weak to a lot of things. But it makes up for it by the fact that it can take pretty much any hit as long as it's not a fighting type move. And as long as it's not something like Focus Blast, we're good. We're good. It has really high attack, nice high defense, special defense. Its speed is awful. It has good HP. It's just so fun to use. It's part of Alakazam's team in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Blue and Red, Team ACT, Alakazam, Charizard, Tyranitar. So it's like always been considered as, it's the first Uber Pokemon that I really got to, not Uber, the first pseudo-legendary Pokemon that I really got to enjoy. I mean, the only other one was Dragonite, and I didn't really use that. It wasn't really my thing. Its design is pretty much like a Godzilla type of concept. It's, comes up from a pupa, and like a Larvitar, it's like a larva pupa, but, its moveset is fantastic. I mean, give it something like Giga Impact and Earthquake, Rock Slide, Thrash, Crunch, all sorts of things. It's, the Pokemon, some of the Pokemon cards we have for it are just fantastic. Dark Tyranitar is just, it's always fun. I always name mine Smasher. The only thing I don't like about it is that when the abilities came in, they gave it Sandstream, and while Sandstream does help it out, it's just so annoying. I hate Sandstorms. They take up so much time. They hurt the other Pokemon in my party, and I just find it to be horribly useless. But yes, you can have strategic use for it. But aside from that, Tyranitar was always just a Pokemon that stood out to me. When I was playing Silver for the first time, Tyranitar, you catch Larvitar by Mount Silver at the very end of the game, story-wise. And that's why I also found Mischievous, which is also one of my favorite Pokemon, but unfortunately didn't make the list. But Tyranitar, Larvitar, it's just this cute little thing. You train it up, and it's mildly strong. It's not great, but you train it up, and it gets better, and it gets stronger, and it gets stronger, and you evolve it, and it has Thrash and Rock Slide, and once it turns into Tyranitar at a very high level, 55, then all of a sudden it turns into a god, and it kind of just goes around, which is why I named it Smasher, because it just smashes everything around it, and it's just... I just remember it being the most fun I've ever had with a Pokemon, just going around killing everything. And it was a Pokemon that I kept reusing whenever I could find a Larvitar, and I would just raise it up, and it was just always, it is my most favorite memorable Pokemon to use, which is why Tyranitar is a bit of a mascot for me. And, I love it. It's my memories. So yeah, that's my list of top favorite Pokemon. Tell me down in the comments if you agree or disagree with any of my choices, what your top Pokemon. Doesn't have to be top 13, but maybe, you know, Pokemon in, you know, top 5s or things like that of favorite Pokemon in general, or any specific memories you have with the Pokemon I talked about. And if you want to give suggestions for list videos you'd like to see me do in the future, I can't guarantee that I'm going to choose them right away, but I will keep them in mind. This has been Sephiroth Oval 4 for Collab Camerupt. Thank you so very much for watching, and I hope to see you guys next time. Goodbye, everybody. Bye-bye.